Hey everybody, welcome. You're wondering what the heck am I doing at John's on Sunday? Well, I needed his A-frame so that I could set the airplane up in the cradle, because I did all that sanding yesterday and now we're going to polish. So this process of doing a super nice finish is so involved. I mean, I don't know what you guys want to see, but anyway, the steps go like this. First, you sand it with 5,000. Then I use turtle wax rubbing compound, which I've already done. It's you can see there's some shine in it now. And then I go to the turtle wax polishing compound. And you say, well, and they look pretty good. That's where it's at now. Then I go to finesse it, which has already been done. This is the expensive stuff. It's $28 a pint. And now I'm going to give this McGuire's swirl remover a try. We'll see how this works. And we'll see if it makes any difference. Oh, they've child-proofed it on me. Yep. This, I don't know what you guys want to see of this. I mean, it's so many hours in a dope finish, sanding and buffing and polishing and rubbing. So let's give that a try, see what that looks like. Now, Walmart had a deal on this Hyper Tough drill. I got a drill, an impact, a flashlight, and a sawzall of this quality, which is not bad, plus 2 batteries for $40. It's not what I would use at work, but it's plenty good for what I'm doing here. So let's give it a whirl, see what it looks like. See if it makes any difference. I'll get a paper and pencil and try to explain you what I'm trying to achieve, which I did give a short dissertation on this, and this looks like it's helping quite a bit. And we'll go get my my blue towels. These are the Scott original paper towels. Oh yeah. That's taking out all the scratches. That's good. Can you see the difference in the shine in that? I can. It's like I say, it's going to be very difficult to show on camera, but these Saturdays and Sundays are not really instructional videos. They're just kind of more or less hanging out with me, doing what I do. And I'll do this all week long, which I don't show, until this airplane everywhere looks like that. So let's see here. So let's go over the process in real time, what it takes. I get my 500 or 5,000 grit sanding pad, which I've lost. My Windex. Now back here where I had I need to get this in a good spot so that I'm not blocking the view of it. Yesterday, I sanded this with 5000. I re-inked this here, and I re-inked that line right there. I got my Grex airbrush, and we're going to be showing some. I brought my other internet, my Wi-Fi modem over today, so we can be out in the garage and show John. He's up there getting his Nobler ready to spray, and we'll go up there and look at him spray that. But I just painted this and this line. Well, the difference between painting the whole thing, you can see kind of a line there where the overspray stops. So in order to get that out, we'll take Windex, spray it on, 5000 grit polishing cloth, knock that edge off. And you just keep doing this until it's perfect everywhere. And it will eventually, you'll either sand all the paint off of it or become perfect. There's remember, the water is not a lubricant. It's something to keep the pad clear, so that it cuts better. Okay. I think I maybe have to. This paint is pretty green. Of course, it did flatten out pretty good there. Can still see kind of a hazy line, and in order to get that hazy line out, it has to be sanded. I suppose you could rub on it. If you started rubbing now, by the time gnats came around, you might get that line out, but the sandpaper is just a vehicle to move material, and the different grits are, get a pencil. I'll show you the goal of this. Okay, this, we don't really have a good piece of paper to write on here. This line here, of course, now the pen won't work. Man. Here's a pen. This line right here represents the wood. The straight line there represents the wood. And when you sand it, when you start off with 80 grit, you're digging big grooves in it. When you dig those big grooves in there like that, you can polish it and it will become shiny, but it won't have that mirror look. So what you're trying to do with each step is, first you start with, sometimes I start with 36 grit sandpaper, but we'll say 80 for the normal guy, 80, then you drop to 120. Then you drop to 320 and sand the whole airplane. Now at 320, these grooves are half as much. Still a wavy line, but it's half as much. So then you're going to start sanding, filling, and priming, laying your tissue on. So you're building up a surface, and then you're going to sand after 320 with 1500. If you have big pebbles left in it, 1500 grit sandpaper. Then you're going to go to 2000 grit sandpaper. Then I go from 2 to 5,000, and you're just trying to level that off so that you get that line that you're going to polish absolutely straight, meaning that you can't see any divots, dings, or anything in it. And that's what will give you that mirror show car finish. Otherwise, you just have a shiny airplane, and it's not really all that shiny. Okay, so you saw that I sanded here, and it's become flat again. And that's okay. That's what we want. We want that. We want it as flat as possible. I don't want to see any shiny spots in it. I can still see kind of a haze in it from the overspray, from the transition from the clear that I sprayed on this line and the clear that I put around the rondelle. But I don't think that's going to come out for a couple of weeks because the paint is pretty green. That was just put on yesterday. So we're just going to overlook that. And in a couple weeks, I'll do this again in this spot. And we go to the rubbing compound. Now the rubbing compound will bring this up really. I can even do it by hand. I don't even have to do a machine rub. The only reason why I'm using the drill, all this stuff used to be done by hand. But now with the advent of some neat tools and attachments and things, it makes it a lot faster. Because I'm going to have over 100 hours in rubbing, sanding, and polishing. It takes longer to rub, sand, and polish a dope finish than it does to build the airplane. Okay, the shine started to come up, but it doesn't really look that great. So let's go ahead and machine polish it. That's rubbing. I wish there was a way to stop cam the footage to show the transition between the steps. And they look so good when they're done like this. It's, you know. Okay, that's the first step. Let's see what it looks like. And it should probably look pretty good. See, it's starting to shine. Pretty good. You're trying to build heat, and that moves the plastic or the nitrocellulite or whatever the hell, nitrocellulose, melts it into one solid sheet. So now we're going to go to polishing. And Wendy calls it the zen of sanding, and he's absolutely right, because it is a zen, and if you don't like sanding, you ain't going to like building model airplanes. So this is the polishing compound, and we'll go over this real quick. And when I get this polished up, I'll turn on the other internet and we'll walk upstairs and look and see what John's doing. See his paint job. Try not to get the edge of the buffing pad into the leading edge of the stab, because you'll cut a groove in the leading edge and then you'll be whining. Okay, let's see what the polish looks like. And each one of these steps that I'm doing is removing the scratches from the steps before. So it's just like the sanding, because each compound is of different grit. I think the finesse it's around, no, I think it's around 8,000 grit, and then the wax and swirl remover is around 10,000. Polishing is around 6,000 grit, finesse it's around 8,000, and then the swirl remover is around 10,000. And yeah, I know you're supposed to change pads, but I won't do that until I do the final polish out with the swirl remover. So here we're around the 6,000 grit. Or 8,000 grit mark. And I really can't, this is just an educated guess. I can't give you 100% definition of, is it really 6,000 or 8,000, I'm just guessing. Just from doing this for so many years that I can pretty much tell you what grit sandpaper was used. Okay, that's the finesse it, and it's getting shinier. And now we want to take all the swirls out of that, which there are none, but we'll go ahead and top it off. So five watchers on a Sunday, that's pretty good. 3 thumbs up. Okay. Now, next to wax, which it won't get waxed for another month probably, is this swirl remover. And let's see what happens here. You know what, I am going to change pads for the swirl remover to see it, so I'm not grinding the heavier grits back into it. I threw a white pad in. I just haven't cut off that edge. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you guys see the difference in shine when I started flattening it out, then the polish? I think, as I stated before, it takes me about 100 hours to completely polish out an airplane. And I know I won't show 100 hours of video on polishing airplanes. I think you guys would hang me up. But we'll do that to the whole airplane and make it look just like that, plastic. This is nothing I've invented or come up with or anything like this. Is not a new concept. It's all been handed down. These finishing techniques are actually furniture or piano finishing techniques. Go into a music store and look at a baby grand piano. That's all hand rubbed black lacquer. It's not urethane. Urethane is the lazy guy's way to make a shine. This takes a few cases of elbow grease. That looks pretty good. Have to get a dry towel. The people that were watching have give up on watching because it's the same shit. And we're going to go up and look at, see what John's doing. I think he's probably got the canopy taped off by now. It might be starting to shoot. We had to go out to Harbor Freight this morning and I bought a digital air pressure gauge for the airbrush. Okay. So let's do the other side. Because the other side, it's all massaging it into what it's supposed to look like. Now you should be able to see the difference between the two. Yeah, it's shiny, but not really. And you guys say, well, How shiny is shiny? Well, it's not shiny enough till I say it's shiny enough for me. And this, it all feels solid. And once you do this, the airplane feels like one piece. It feels like solid, like a rock, like it should weigh 1,000 pounds instead of 40 ounces. And there's really nothing more discouraging than putting a dent in one of these things after knowing how much time you had to spend to get it to look like this. Okay, 5,000 grit sandpaper pad. Windex or water, your preference. You can hear it when you're going back and forth. It sounds gravelly, and then it'll get quiet. Yeah. I've already burned through the clear right there, so I got to stay off the ink line. The ink line is just a little thicker than the paint, unless you get the paint on so thick that it's buried the ink line. But we're not going to fix that. That's just not worth adding paint for that little corner. Because it'll be a nice airplane. It's not going to be a 20-pointer. It'll be 18 or 19. And that's all you really need. I do not know how Gene Martin and Phil Granderson, Wendy, they do a 20-pointer. Of course, Granderson builds light, but it just takes so much time to get every little... Of course, it's all subjective too. What's 20 points to one judge is not 20 points to me. Okay, let's 6 watchers, 3 thumbs up. Hit that like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber, if you like what we do here. These, I do some instructional videos. These that I'm doing today over John's and what we do on Saturday is more a hangout between him and I, for you guys to see how we interact and make things happen. Him and I build very similar. I've got him off the paint can, so his airplanes are going to be lighter. Can't keep tilting the paint can and expect to have light airplanes. Okay. Let's start bringing this up. change out the pad. I only want to use that white pad on the swirl remover. And there's no room here. You notice here I've cut the hard edge of the pad back so that it fits the drill and leaves a little overhang so that we're not running into leading and trailing edges and digging grooves and stuff. So it rolls back up over that when you put it, but don't dig that in there anyway, because it will dig a trench. Kind of want to stay off that. You can see it when it comes up too. It'll I mean, it's really obvious. I don't know how to explain it unless you were here and I could point at it. I think the color red must have iron in it because I see little black dots in all red. And that's possibly why it's so expensive to make. You guys ready to go up and see what John's doing? Hopefully the internet will cooperate with me. Now I'll warn you, when I go up there, it'll switch over from the Wi-Fi to my hotspot, so there might be a minute or two lag where it goes dead. So just don't hang up, just hang on and we'll be back. These are things I have no control over yet. Okay, that come up pretty good. Now we'll go to polishing. Eight with 3. Hit that like button, you guys that are sitting there. Even if you don't like it, just hit it because it helps the channel. This is very boring stuff, and I know that. But the hours of rubbing and polishing is what it takes for a show finish. So maybe this will give you the appreciation when you look at a windy model like his Testarossa or his Ferrari plane or one of those where they're absolutely gorgeous. How much work he's put into it. Okay, this is polishing compound. We rubbed it first, got it hot, moved the material around. As soon as I get to the McGuire's on this. We'll go up and see what John's doing. And, you know, I could rub another hour or two and probably will, but not on camera. Okay, that was polishing. Let's go to the finesse it. Mark at Big Bill Auto Body turned me on to finesse it when we were doing motorcycle tanks. It has petroleum in it, and it has a strange smell to it, but it really does the job. And you could keep going over this. As Randy Powell says, a paint job is never finished, it's only abandoned. How true that is. You know, how much work do you want to put into something? And from what I've seen, Randy Powell finishes very nicely. There was another guy that came down. I can't remember his name. Really good finisher. He was on the forum. He's not very much active. You guys have gotten off into Facebook, which is going to kill Stunt Hanger, just like you guys killed Stuka. And Facebook is so hard to find anything. I don't know why you guys like that stupid thing. Mike Griffith, he couldn't start his own forum, so he started Facebook and about killed me now. I should have threw him off when he started that crap. But we'll survive. Okay, that was finesse it. Let's go to the wax or the swirl remover. It's mirror glaze. One thing I do want to warn you about, there's the guys that I'm reading all around, they're telling you how to silk span and fiberglass and polish and paint, and they really don't have the experience. You know, if you want to see it done, I will show you how it's done in real time. How to build wings and all that. They, like I say, they just don't have the experience, and I look at some of that stuff on the internet and go, wow! And they're coming off like experts. Of course, that happened during the Stuka Stunt era with me. You know, they thought that I didn't know what I was talking about, and this is why the videos came about, because I want to show you. I don't want to tell you, I want to show you. You know, If picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. Okay, we did the back half of this airplane on the fuselage. Just what I wanted to get accomplished today. All the rest I can do in my apartment. I need to do this nose too. This nose is kind of flat. Let's see what happens when I hand rub it. Need to take that muffler off maybe and buffer out, but anyway, I can do that at home as well. We'll go up and see what John's doing. Oh, one last step. Take this spray and dry, and get all the material off of it. A good dope finish will cost you, not in time, just in money, about $300. And you go, wow, 300. Well, figure the sandpaper, the thinner, and you're going to use more thinner than you do dope. Thinner is $55 a gallon. You can figure, I would say, 1.5 gallons what I used on this. So the dope, depending on the color, I think clear is about $28 a quart. You're going to use at least 1 quart of clear, and then the color dope is, depending on the color, you're going to need half pint of that. It's $20 for that. And you got all the paper towels and all these. $28, $20, $10, $10, $10. The masking tape, about $50 worth of masking tape. The paper. People don't take into account what it really costs. And then you got your labor. Oh, and if you use any 3M fine line tape, that's $15 a roll. Okay, let's go up and see what John's doing. Make sure I got my internet hotspot here. Got that. Yesterday, John asked about anything we could do tutorials on. Fitting canopies, rebating, and super fill. Also put a hole in the wing after the color. How do you repair? Now, believe it or not, Craig, I need to go back and probably go through my how-to videos that I already have posted. All those questions I've answered several times. On the Monado, on the first flight, I put a hole in the bottom of the wing. I showed you how to repair it so it doesn't show. I did the canopy fitment on the Nobler and the Monado, the P47 and the shoestring videos. There's some, but I will spend some time. I probably should clear up my how-to videos, better categorized. How do you silk span? How do you fit canopies, and so on and so forth? Because I've covered it all in the past. But I'll see what we can do. All right, we're going to get ready to go upstairs. And if I lose internet connection, remember, going to turn this on here. Remember that I will be on, so just sit and wait for a minute because we should be able to go through this with no problem. There we go, got signal. Okay. I think it's set up to automatically transfer, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to need John's microphone. Okay, I got John's microphone. I got the battery. Can you guys hear me okay? Have you guys been able to hear me throughout this? Because I didn't have, well, let's see here. Yeah, you should have been able to, yeah. Okay. I didn't have the transmitter turned on, so I didn't know whether you could hear me or not. So we're going to go up now and see what John's doing in the garage painting. Give me a second here. I got to collapse all these poles. Pick the wires up so I don't kill myself. And we'll go upstairs. Let's see, you got that? Got that? Okay. We'll see what he's doing. I smell it. Is he painting?
Yeah.
Of course. Well, I don't think he's going to be able to talk right now because it looks like he has a dust mask on. As I stated, I don't think he's going to be able to talk right now because he has a dust mask on, and hopefully this compressor will shut off. All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Are we still on? Hello? Somebody type in the chat box that you can hear me because we did switch areas and I don't know whether I'm still on the internet or not. Load her up. Yep, okay, great. I need a 12-year-old engineer to run this operation. I take it the Grex didn't work very well?
Just put it on after this bigger area.
So John's spraying a half a gallon of paint on his airplane now. I'm standing outside the booth. So you're getting to see an airplane sprayed in real time today. Remember, that's all you get.
I've already got all the sub parts done. All I got is the main wing sections to do. Top, bottom. And I still got half the paint that I started with.
Hit that like button. We got 12 watchers and only 4 thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the share button. And if you're not a subscriber here, subscribe so you're notified when we upload a video, which is probably 4 times a week now. Do a lot of live streaming so I don't have to edit it. The editing process is just such a pain. You notice there that he painted the underside of the outboard wing, flipped it over, and is painting the top side of the outboard wing right afterwards. And the reason for that is when you soak the wing down, it relaxes. And if you don't, it will pull in the opposite direction. So if you do both sides, it pulls equally top and bottom, and that kind of alleviates the warpage. However, it still could happen because these are living things. But it does eliminate some of the process. So now he's going to do the inboard side bottom. And there's really not a set way that you have to do inboard, outboard, whatever. You just start where you feel comfortable. But if you're going to paint a wing, paint the bottom and immediately turn it over and paint the top. Same with the flaps. Flaps, elevator, stabilizer, top or bottom, then top. As quick as possible. You don't want to put a coat on, take a break for an hour, come back and paint the other side because it'll have a warp in it by then. Okay, John, thanks.
You're welcome. Sorry, I can't talk much.
John says he can't talk much.
Because I want to concentrate.
They can't hear you anyway. I have a, lapel mic on. I brought your mic out here, but it'd be hard to talk through the mask.
Yeah. You can relay what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And here comes the compressor. That should be it. What was that? Okay, that's the end of the painting. Which, his Nobler or my, when you ask that question, are you talking about my Tucker Special or the Nobler on time? Which one took the longest? And it doesn't matter. They all take the same amount of time. Okay, I started my Tucker last year, but remember, I only work an hour a day on it. So hour per hour, this Nobler took the same amount of time as it took to build my Tucker. It's just the way it is.
I'm 2 weeks behind you.
You-
Probably 2 weeks behind you.
John says he's 2 weeks behind me. But it doesn't matter what airplane you build. You know, I can build them in 30 days. I can build them in 11 days. But the same amount of time is spent on an airplane that I build in 30 days is the one that I build in a year. It takes the same amount of time. It's just how much time do I want to dedicate to working on it. Because when I get started on a project, if I'm at home in St. Louis and I want to finish a project up, I will barrel through that project nonstop 20 hours a day. Yes, total hours are always about the same. I would say that a good stunner takes
I'm coming out.
300 to 400 hours building time. You want your microphone?
Yeah, let me start getting this garage air down a little bit.
Okay, we're opening up the garage doors to not puke. Yeah, get John his microphone. Turn it on and commode link.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me while I blow white boogers out of my nose.
We'll take a look at it here in a minute, but
It took longer to set up to do it than it did to do it. Yesterday, if you watched the videos, we did. I lightly sanded the pebbles off of it, which is just dust or whatever that stuck into the last coat of blocker coat that I'd put on the airplane. And I took 2,000 grit paper and lightly sanded the whole airplane and all the parts and pieces. And then I took and cleaned it 3 times with Windex.
I can't see you there.
I took and cleaned it 3 times with Windex yesterday, and then this morning I had it mounted on the paint stand yesterday, and this morning I took and I took some Prepsol and a lint-free cloth, and I rubbed over the whole airplane. Then I took another lint-free cloth and I wiped the whole airplane down, and then I blew it off with air. It's sort of redundant, but get all the dust and hairs and everything off of it that you can. Then I had to mount everything. I had to put all my flaps and everything on my little paint stands and all that stuff. And hang up all my wheel pants and landing gear and all that. So that took probably, I don't know, 45 minutes or so to get everything set up this morning and ready to go. And then it only took me about, once I started painting, probably half an hour from start to finish. I think I'd already done the flaps, the elevator, the cow, the landing gear, the wheel pants, and all the stab on both sides, top and bottom. I was starting on the fuselage when Robert came upstairs. So you got to see the last little bit of the fuselage and the top and bottoms of the main wing. And you know, half an hour, you know, pretty much. You get on it and do it. When I paint my airplane, like the whole airplane that's on the test stand there, or on the paint stand, I sit and I take the airbrush and I load the gun up and I do all the flaps and elevators and the separate parts and pieces. Then I fill the cup up again to start the whole main airframe, and then when I start the main airframe, I go around and do all the edges of everything. The edges of the front and rear and tips and all the little sharp pointy things and everything. Get a coat on them. Go around the whole airplane, do that on the whole airplane. And then I come back through and I start on the stab, top and bottom. And then I get that done, top and bottom, equally like I did the wing. And then I'll start on the fuselage from the tail towards the front, and I'll do the top half of the fuselage on both sides, and I'll flip the plane over and do the bottom half on both sides, and I work up towards the front until the fuselage is done, and then I flip it upside down. Now I always start painting on the main wing on the bottom side, so just in case something is to mess up, at least it might be on the bottom. And then before I start the main wing, I fill the cup back up again, because I really don't want to run out halfway in the wing and have a big spit and splatter or splutter on there, you know. So when I start on the main wing sections, which are large, you know, largest area you're going to paint, make sure you start with a full cup and check your cup once you do one whole wing panel, because you probably won't use the whole cup. I think I only used a cup and a half.
I turned it upside down for you.
Okay, a cup and a half, and I've done this whole airplane with a cup and a half of small Harbor Freight HVLP gun.
You need to paint your hinges too.
Again, yeah, it's pretty thin down paint. I mean, I got 60% thinner in this white paint, and so I already had my blocker white coat on there, so all I'm trying to do is just try to get to where I can't see the grain quite through it. And I don't care if I really can see the grain. If you set it down on the dark surface, it'll go opaque. So that's where we're at right now, and then we'll check it when it starts drying and see how even I got the paint on, and if I missed any little spots or whatever, we'll run back through and touch them up. But this is going to be probably the last white that goes on this airplane. We'll go straight into trim colors next, and
you need to get a coat of clear on it today.
yeah, we'll get a coat of clear on it today before I go into the trim colors, and that's just to keep the dust off the white, because if you get any dirt in that white, then it's all over with. You can't, you know. So if you get a coat of clear on it real quick, that'll sort of seal that white off. You'll be able to clean the dust off and stuff without it embedding itself in the color.
I want to say this. Here is my top coat clear. It was full. You notice I still got some. I could have put this on the airplane, but it'd be 45 ounces. So I didn't continue painting, even though I had more paint.
See, now I've probably got, how much is in there? I probably got a little less than that. I probably got about that much of my base coat stuff.
Yeah.
That includes my 3 first coats, my 3 coats on top of the silk span, and the 2 tinted white coats that went on the airplane, which I took the same base stuff that I had and I tinted it with like a tablespoon of white. And it's just clear, thinned down about 60%. And of course, you keep adding thinner, you can add as much thinner as you want. And I probably added I had it probably 60% thin to begin with, and I probably added another 25% thinner.
What does that say?
But I still got,
That's 60-40 there.
you know, I
10%
still got
reduction.
I don't know, about an inch tinted clear still in the jar that I didn't use. I didn't need to.
And there's your
I'm good.
top coat clear over
Straight
there.
to white. Here's my other half, which is my top coat over the colors. This is,
That's 60-40, isn't it?
goes by weight. Where's the,
That's a little less than a quart.
so yeah, it's a little less than a quart.
This is a quart jar here. This is a little bit smaller. No, they might be the same. I don't know.
But Tostitos cheese dip, recycling.
And we're now using non-tautening butyrate clear. The reason being is it's crystal clear. The crystal clear that I bought from Brodax 3 times has been brown.
Yeah.
And so I ordered non-tautening, just as an experiment, non-tautening butyrate dope as a top coat, and it is crystal clear, just like water.
Yeah, but you have to get the non-tautening type. It doesn't have any dyes or anything in it.
And I was told
Which
that-
is fine. Non-tautening is fine. Don't get me wrong. You can use non-tautening from the ground up if you want. Doesn't make any difference. Now, if you want to just put some of the tautening stuff over open base and make sure they shrink up real good, or if you didn't get down tight, go for it. But, you know, Spark will tell you, dope continues to shrink throughout its whole life, and it doesn't matter if it's 10 years old, it's still shrinking to some extent. Maybe it gets a little less as it gets older, but
I asked why they put the color in dope. And the reason was so they could see where they were painting.
yeah, they have a blue tinted dope too that you can get, which I don't necessarily like the idea of putting something blue on there unless I'm going to paint my airplane blue. But if you take your undercoat and whatever color, base color you decide to paint your plane, just put a tablespoon of whatever color you're going to paint your plane on when you first start putting the dope on the wood. Put that base color on there and it'll start getting to your color before you get to the color. And all your subsequent coats, your blocker coats and all that stuff will be the same color that you're going to be painting your airplane. And it just means less color dope when you get to the time to actually paint the color on your airplane. And your color dope's your heavier of the dopes. Your clear dope's the lightest, and then color dopes are heavy because they got pigment in them. So, yeah, the pigment is what really adds most of the weight, or the base. But clear dope is the lightest, so why not just barely tint it, just barely put some color in it. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like I say, a whole quart with a tablespoon of color in that will make that be see-through white. And 2 or 3, you start getting 3 or 4 coats of that on there and it starts getting sort of opaque. So that's sort of where we're at as far as painting goes. We'll check this airplane out here in a minute. Probably about ready to go in there. It might be aired out a little bit now. Oh yeah, I think that's going to be plenty. You can still sort of just barely see through it. And of course, that could be just shadows too that I'm seeing. Well, that's going to look good.
Yeah, this is your best work, I think.
These paint stands are the cat's meow. If you're gonna be painting some airplanes or whatever, this makes it so nice to be able to spin this thing upside down and backwards and everything, and A little light on the bottom, but that's all right.
I'll show Jim Lynch.
So you can see I didn't get this right in here.
That's all right. Trim color.
But it'll be fine. It's on the bottom. Don't want to get too carried away with not leaving the finish off the bottom because you'll get dinged for it big time. But I still see some doggone pinholes in that covering. That pisses me off.
They'll hide with the clear.
Now they show up as a little black dot. If you put a darker color over them, happen to get a darker color over them, it'll hide them pretty good. But right now is where all your faux pas start really showing up.
Turned out pretty good.
All that sanding prior. I won't say nothing if you don't. See, there's a huge pinhole. Look at the size. Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah. Ink line.
Yeah, have to put something over it and try to. I don't know what it was. Sparky used my tissue paper. Didn't get any pinholes in his, and then I covered my plane right after his, and all of a sudden I got pinholes. And I fixed a bunch of them, so it's got about 75% less than what it started with. There's still a few. That'll take another light coat where I sanded through it up there in the front.
Unless you put a trim color on it. I'm interested in the weight. Oh, we got a question here. I'm interested in the weight of those wheel pants. I hate pinholes. That's what Jim Smith says.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I'll tell you what I did to fill the ones that I did fill, and I got sort of frustrated because there were so many of them. I took primer and I sprayed it into the lid of the primer, and I went around with a toothpick and I put a little touch of the primer on those holes. And then I had to come through and sand that off, but I put as minimal amount of that on there because I didn't want to create a bunch of little dots all over the airframe. And then you need to sort of meticulously sort of sand all those little spots down and get them blended in. And I did have a spot on this where I actually had, this is dry pretty much already.
John's airplane is built exactly the same as mine. It has a foam leading edge. It's a D tube with foam, and the tissue paper is double-aught silk span, free flight silk span. Describe how you built the paint stand, especially that turny thing. It's real simple. It's just a piece of PVC pipe sticking off of the ground.
It's a toilet bowl flange on the bottom screwed to a piece of plywood with a reducer. A 4-inch reducer going down to 2-inch. Then the vertical piece is a piece of 2-inch PVC pipe with a cap on the end of it. And then this is just a piece of aluminum rod, a foot long. I made a little handle so I can turn it. And I cut a flat on this end by the motor. This little plate mounts too. And then it just goes through your ring. This is about 1-inch diameter aluminum rod. And then these little plates, I make them depending on whatever motor I'm using. I make another plate for each motor. And this happens to be for a OS 32. And I drill the motor mounts, hold it, and then the 2 bolts that hold it to the piece of aluminum, and then just screw it in there, right where your motor would go. And this little handle is just a piece of 1 by 1/8 inch bar stock from Lowe's or Home Depot, and I drilled a hole in the end of it, and I can stick the Allen wrench that goes to these bolts. I use that, and I can stick it in the end here, and that way I can lock it if I need to lock it. If I want to keep spinning, then I just pull the Allen wrench out, and I can spin it 90 degrees. I made this thing sort of a T, and I can lock it like this if I want to. But I really don't use that a whole lot except when I'm taping it. If I'm taping the designs off, and then I stick my Allen wrench in there, and I can, you know, you can put pressure on it and it won't spin around out of position for you. But it works okay. It's cheap. It's something different. You know, it could be made.
CF Slattery. So I have a CF Slattery paint stand. I think they were $75, and it's basically 3 pieces of 1-inch square. Same principle, same exact idea, but it's a piece of 3 pieces of 1-inch square, 4-foot long tubing, and it's made into a T.
And just come out here in a V shape.
No, it goes straight across this way.
Does his go straight? Well, you could do it, yeah, straight, come out and out.
3. It's
3
3
or 4 pieces.
It's 3 pieces.
1-inch square stock welded together. That's all welded. I don't have a welder, so I did it with what I had. I had a piece of plywood, and Home Depot's got the PVC pipe pretty cheap.
And
so,
they have a toilet bowl fan, you know, reducer.
yeah, go over there, buy everything in one flail suit for about, I don't know, $10 or $15 or something like that, and you got your paint stand.
You make everything out of PVC.
All this stuff up here, this aluminum stuff, was just junk that I had on hand because I was trying to use stuff that I just had around the shop, not buy anything extra, and it worked out pretty good. I sort of wish this plywood plate was on wheels so I could roll it around a little bit, which would be real nice. That's got thinner in it, Sparky.
I just want to show them what a Grex airbrush looks like. You're going to use this for the trim, right?
Yeah. Does that got the big tip in it, or is that the smaller tip?
That's the big tip.
That'll be good for trims.
Okay. Wayne had some pinholes. Let's see. And the poly span could never get filled in old Barnstorm. I heard perhaps Monocoat blow dryer was a bit too hot. It's what I used. I've done a lot of polyspan. This is my Grex airbrush. I bought these are pricey. They're real pricey. I bought the big cup, the number 7 needle, the fan spray. Today I just went out and bought why did you cover that?
So paint we can get on over the letters.
Oh. I went out and bought a digital air pressure gauge. It has well, I bought the trap too, but this is a digital air pressure gauge. High-tech stuff.
Another battery.
No, I don't think so. There's no place to put a battery in it.
It's got to be powered by something.
Osmosis.
Yeah.
That is a good idea to put that over there.
I normally take all my gauges. I run a gauge right at my handle, right at my spray gun handle. These are my little cheap Harbor Freight guns. And I just take a piece of clear packing tape and put over this, and then cut it with a little razor knife around there, and makes it sit down in there real nice. And then when it starts getting dirty, you just peel
Tear off.
the plastic off of it. And yeah, you can put 2 or 3 layers on it, I guess, and do it by layers like tear-offs. But it protects these, but they're pretty cheap. $7 or $8 for another whole set. The regulator and the gauge. So that's not too bad, and that works pretty good. And they're all set up. Sort of the same.
For you guys that are worried about coronavirus, all you got to do is paint in a spray booth. That'll kill anything.
Oh yeah, that'll suck it right out. I think I'll do those with an airbrush.
I think I'd do it with a paintbrush. You're going to take some big time paint to fill that plywood.
It's already got 3 coats of clear on it, sanded. All them little boogers. Wheel pants for my other plane, they need another coat. I forgot them. The whole airplane. Get all the way through, paint the whole airplane, and then forgot all the wheel pants and the weight box cover. Okay, got to keep remembering this little piece, because this little piece goes where my vent for my fuel tank goes. It goes in this little slot right here. After you put the fuel tank in, you can slide that little piece up in there and it fills that little void below where the hoses come out. Don't have a big giant long slot in it. You got to remember all those little parts and pieces. They get sort of set aside. What I'll do is hook the airbrush up and paint them. Let me get rid of this flammable stuff. I'll paint them with the airbrush.
70 ounces.
Yep, you hear me and Sparky say that to each other all the time, and we do that for a reason. Keep ourselves in check whenever we're gonna be doing something. Always remember that it's weight. The heaviest part of your airplane is in this paint outside of the main frame.
Now, the heaviest single component besides the engine is the paint. And you wouldn't think of the engine, well,
Yeah.
guaranteed the paint weighs as much as the engine.
Yeah, just damn it.
We've been on 83 minutes or 83 minutes now. My, how time flies when you're doing nothing, having fun.
Here's something you guys might want to look at. It's this little thing that we made here. This is a Harbor Freight paint gun holder. Now dang thing's not wanting to come out of there. We took a little piece of plywood and we cut different cutouts in it for different airbrushes and whatever. Slides down there with that little rod, sort of locks in place, and our HVLP guns set in the middle pretty good, or they'll set on the ends over here pretty good. And then out here we got a way to catch your airbrush. So you make these cutouts to fit whatever tool is that you're using. Now what do you know?
There goes a new gasket.
It's one I got to replace, one that actually fits good.
already changed my glass. John Smith, Wayne, and I scrounged up some patio umbrella stands at a garage stand and put them together using galvanized steel with steel rods. Oh, this is Jim
There you
Smith
go.
from the Smith Brothers.
All right. That looks much better. This little puppy while we're at it.
Make sure you paint your fingernails.
Of course. I'm running out of paint and it's not one to pick up.
You're going to add the turning handle to his.
Well, it works. It helps. And you don't have to touch your airplane then.
Like, subscribe, and share the videos, guys. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you know when we're going to post.
And if you want to know, this is just a pretty cheap Badger air gun, and it works pretty doggone good for what it is. There's one even cheaper than this yet that I don't think I would try to use, but this one right here is the next step up from it, and it works pretty good. You could spray this into a catch can or something. They make little airbrush catch cans for putting this in, cleaning your tip and stuff. You want to clean inside here. When you're finally done with the airbrush, you change colors because you might get a little chip that blows out around that in there. That's good for right now because I'll be using it here in the next day or so.
If you're going to paint white, black, red, always paint the light color first. Paint the white first, then the next darkest color, and so on and so forth. Because invariably, doesn't matter how good you clean the gun, something's going to spit out of there.
Yeah, I even have dedicated tops for my airbrush guns. This is a color top. I've got one for black, one for clear, one for white. They're pretty inexpensive. Buy a bunch of these bottles and a bunch of these feed caps and use them, dedicated color type thing on those. Get you some of these little squeeze pipette things. They come in real handy, and I'll show you what. I sort of squeeze that down in that hole there a little bit and stick it down into some thinner. There, I've got my caps cleaned out now. Clean my gasket off. We're good
Jim
to go.
Smith says that your handle will make his paint stand nice.
Yeah, the handle's a neat little feature. I like it. I mean, everybody's mileage varies. You know, some guys might just like to flip their airplane around by hand, but I keep my hands off my airplane. When I start painting it, I don't take it anywhere to any show and tells. When I start putting the covering on it, it stays at home. It stays in its little dedicated area. Try not to handle it any more than I can, because all you gotta do is rub your nose and touch it, and there you got some oil on it. So, this little tail wheel, I don't worry about getting a little paint on that, because a little lacquer thinner will clean the paint off it. And we'll go through and clean all these wires up. Scrape all the paint off there wherever you're not gonna see it. Comes off pretty easy. See, I just got that off there with my fingernail line before we glue them in. That's about it. See a couple sort of light spots on there, but I still got plenty. Look at this now.
Thank you, Jim.
Here's how much paint I used. And this is white paint that I mixed up for this job, and it's up to here right now. I had it all the way up to here, so I've used this much paint right to here. That was the paint pigment. The rest of this up here was thinner. And I've only used down to here. So I've used not even half of what I mixed up, and I painted this whole airplane and all the parts and pieces.
70 ounces.
So the less amount of this that you can use, the better. And the only thing I'll do with this airplane now is I'll take it out in the sun and I'll look at it in the sun and I'll note where all the little, and Sparky does this, you put a little piece of tape on the little spots you want to touch up, and then you come through and you only touch those spots. You don't go giving the whole airplane a whole nother 2 or 3 coats of paint. Just do the spots where you're seeing through it out in natural light. So I can see a line. It could be a shadow in here now. It looks like there's a line down here where it comes around and stops being round and goes flat. But it may just be shadow from the lighting. But we'll have to get it off paint stand, get it outside and look at it in real light, and then we'll see just where, if there is a little light spot right there, because I can see the green
Turned out real nice.
fill through that. And listen, there's not orange peel on this airplane. You look at it, if it's orange peel, it's almost not what you could consider orange peel, because it's pretty smooth, and all that comes from all that sanding that you did prior to this. The more you sand to begin with, the less hard of a time you have sanding later on in the paint job. It's coming out pretty nice. I'm real happy.
That would be.
I'm real happy. I see a few little spots in it, but I'm not going for 20 points. You go for that 20 points, 70 ounces. And have you ever flown a 55 ounce, 35 size airplane? And it won't go through the wind, it won't do anything, and you're lacking horsepower, and you've already got a 46 size engine and a 29 to 35 size airplane, then you'll understand. Little spot right there. And we'll go over this once it dries real good. I don't want to irritate the paint job right now. And I won't use all that paint. When I go around and touch this up, I doubt that I'll even use a cup of paint. Spray can cup, which is what? What is that?
2
ounces?
Yeah.
I'll probably use maybe an ounce going through doing all the little touch-ups, and then that'll be that. We'll go right from there into the trim.
Well, guys, one last look at John's airplane. We've been on for an hour and a half. Appreciate you joining me on Sunday for the boring rub out and the paint job. I noticed we just had another guy sign on, but we're going to end the show. Come on back and watch it when it's uploaded. And we'll see you next week. Fair winds, tight lines. See you.
Bye.